I met my wife just before heading off to Iraq. We went on 3 dates over the course of a week and never made it further than a kiss. She dumped me about 1/3 of the way, though. The people in my unit metaphorically leapt to my defense, supposing that she was the villain of the story and had a very hard time understanding that I was okay with it. We'd been on 3 dates and I was in a goddamn war while she was a college freshman. I thought she'd been daft for trying to make it work in the first place. What's more, the breakup call did not end with my being sad or hurt. Instead, I had a profound sense that it wasn't over, something I saw as an entirely irrational perspective. 7 years later, I was visiting a friend while in college myself and looked her up. It turns out that she was living in the same city. I sent her a message asking if she wanted to go to lunch and catch up, and I fully intended it to be as friends. Lunch turned into day-spanning date that left me so confused I actually had to ask her the next day whether or not it had been a date. We got married a few years later and had a few snags along the way, with the most harrowing being rather recent. I came out as transgender. Statistically speaking, that's the kind of thing that is far more likely to end in divorce. The last stand of my masculine identity took place there, but then one day I realized that sooner or later, that last stand was going to kill me. And so I did the unthinkable thing and rolled the dice, betting everything I had on a relationship that was already an impossible long shot, hoped against all reason that somehow I'd be one of the lucky ones. It was not an easy thing, those first months. The need to be open and honest about something so raw, so irrational, all the while waiting for the other shoe to drop, was torturous. Her saying that she'd need time to mourn lives rent-free in my head even now, and likely will for the rest of my life. Until that moment, I'd never had to confront the other side of what I'd done, and that no matter how necessary it had been for my survival, it was a trial for her as well. Every step I wanted to take as part of a transition left that statement playing in a loop. Eventually, the easy stuff had been done, and if anyone out there needs to hear it, even the easy stuff isn't, and pretending that something as simple as buying clothes from the other section is anything other than terrifying doesn't do anyone any favors. HRT was the next thing, and unlike everything else, it was a thing I couldn't take back. We had a long conversation about it, about what our fears were on that front, but eventually I started on HRT. My desperate rage, a cornerstone of my life for as long as I can remember, faded and atrophied. I could cry and smile, and these things felt real in a way that they never had before. I saw color differently. And then the other stuff, the stuff that people think of when they think about hormone replacement therapy, started to kick in. A lifetime of never having a reason to hide my chest, backed by my being hypercritical of everything about myself, meant that I didn't think my budding breasts were worthy of notice until the day my wife asked me to turn slightly as I was putting on a shirt. "You have boobs," she said. Puffy nips, perhaps, but certainly not boobs, but she was adamant on the point. A few weeks passed, and we were sitting down for our by that point normal and ongoing discussion about all of the above when she opened with, "The more I see things change about you, the more attracted I am to you." A few weeks past that, and she shared that she'd always assumed that she was envious of other women, or that she'd pay close attention to the other dancers during her brief career as a ballerina for fully professional reasons, but had since come to realize that these were partial explanations, much the same way my interest in helping her shop for clothing was partially explained by the fact that I loved her and wanted to spend time together had been. There was truth to them, but the kind of truth that skirts around something important, and the important thing was that she didn't want to be those other women, she wanted to be with them. I'm not sure what effing trickster god is responsible for my being trans, but if they're also responsible for her discovering that she's bisexual with a strong preference for sapphic people, I guess I'll let it slide. Mine spans over about 6 years, so bear with me here. There's about a year and a half between us, and we didn't get together for a long, long time. It's a long one. Basically, when I moved to Perth, capital city, in about 2016, ended up living in the house directly behind her. My sister and I used to poke our heads over the back fence and annoy Sky, my now fiancée, and her sister constantly. And I used to want to be friends with her, lol. Fast forward to school, I never used to notice the juniors. Honestly, I blatantly ignored them. Especially as a senior, she used to see me around school and think I was the cute, not quite out senior according to her lol, and I always just smiled at her and walked away. Come to about 2018, I graduated. She was in year 10, and I only really ever saw her when she was at work, or heard about her second-hand from some of my friends who also knew her. So I started dating other girls and beginning my hoe phase. 2020 comes around, and I get picked up from clubbing by my best friend Jaden. We go to where he and everyone else are hanging out, and she's there. And God, she took my breath away. But my stupid drunk-ass docent know how to talk to her, so I stay mute, and that's about it. Then April of that year, our friends George and Erin decide to get us set up, and finally meet. They didn't really know about all the times we've already crossed paths, aside from the car park incident. So we pick her up from dancing in George's car, he puts us in the back seat, and we just drive like we usually do, listening to music. And I'm a nervous wreck, lol. Eventually we get closer and closer, and I'm now hugging her while she leans on me, and I buy her a frozen from Hungry Jack's. And then, after a while of working up the nerve, I kiss her. It was honestly one of the greatest kisses. I was on top of the goddamn world. Fast forward a week, we were hanging out, and I ask her to be my girlfriend. Fast forward another couple week, and she tells me she loves me, and then 3 months later, I ask her to move in with me to my auntie's house that she's putting up as a rental. She says yes. Fast forward again to the 9th of March this year, we're still going strong, and Sky decides to propose to me. I say yes. Now we're about to build our house together, have a crazy-ass cat, and have been through so much together. She's my best friend and the absolute love of my life. I can't imagine doing this with anyone except her, even when we drive each other insane. We've experienced so much, and I'm so grateful for her every day. We're high school sweethearts. Met when we were 14, dated all throughout high school, broke up for 6 months and have been together ever since. So, together for 17 years, married for 13. We have 2 girls. What I think our secret is that we're each other's best friends. Since we met so young, bumping uglies or any of that wasn't a big concern until year 2 or 3 of dating. Yeah, we made out and did heavy petting, but that was it. We didn't really start doing anything until 16 or 17. So we had all that time just to get to know each other, do fun things together, spend a lot of downtime together, help each other academically, etc., before the complexities of intercourse got in the way. And sure enough, we had intercourse the first time in August '07, and he broke up with me in May '08. So it wasn't long before sex made things more complex. Once we got back together, he joined the army, and 2 weeks after we got married, he deployed to Iraq for a year. So we literally had to develop our marriage through things we loved about each other, talking and emailing. I think too many people put too much stock in intercourse and physical intimacy and forget how to just be friends. Barring something truly awful like my husband cheating on me, if we divorced, I think we could at least remain cordial for our kids because we care about each other as people. I didn't marry my husband for intercourse. He's more than that. I think people would have an easier time if they remembered that each of them are human and fallible, and empathy should be used to help each other rather than think about all the things they don't have. Abusive relationships notwithstanding, of course.